Today we're going to learn about the solfeggio frequency, or the solfeggio tones. Who knows what I'm talking about? Yeah? Of course you do, Shani. Anyone else?
Me, I do. I've been trying to listen to Jam a bit.
Who said that? Erin. Yeah, she's got some amazing stuff happening. I'm so proud of her. About a year ago, she sat down and because I'm her mentor, and we sat down and she just said, Tracy, I've just got this awesome idea, but I feel like it's not going to fit within the mainstream music, because she's a mainstream music producer over in like New York. She's Australian, but she lives in New York. And she's just like, I feel like the artists that I'm working with, which are really big names like Alicia Keys and Miley Cyrus, she's like, I'm afraid that they're not going to embrace like where I want to go. And I was like, you do you. Like, you need to be able to stay authentic and in tune with yourself, and if they won't do it, then there's a reason for that, and it's for you to do. And so a lot of what she's producing on her first album is or her first original album is her own voice, which is also really cool. But for those who are listening who don't know what I'm talking about, I have a client named Gemma, and she is an Australian girl who is the sweetest person you will ever meet. But she lives over in America, and she's a huge music producer. And she has just released this year in a couple of stages. She's not finished the stages yet, but she's releasing her very first debut album, original album, and it's all based around the solfeggio tones. Which is really, really fucking cool. So she's already got a couple of songs out that you can listen to, which I'll send to you and put up on the socials today. So the solfeggio tones are essentially what we know as sacred frequencies, sacred tones, and they were discovered back in around the 1500s when music was kind of the way of communication for a lot of people. And there were a lot of hymns, a lot of chants. It was a very biblical, religious type situation where a lot of the religious hymns that we still might hear today in the really big churches and places like that of worship, you can tell I'm just not a religious person. Those places of worship where they're singing, the monks and also the choirs, a lot of those songs that they're singing, those hymns that they're singing, have these as their foundation. Now, there are 6 of these frequencies that are known, and basically I'm sorry, I'm really struggling this morning, so I do apologize. My head is just all a shambles. Basically, the foundation behind it is that each tone, each frequency that is at a megahertz, each frequency restores a balance in harmony when it comes to vibration within the body. So when I was talking earlier a couple of days ago about how we hold vibration within our body, and when it vibrates too low or it's there for long enough, it manifests into something physical, which is how we get sick. The frequencies are said to be able to speak to that part that is manifesting in the physical, and where it should be vibrating, it kind of brings a balance and restoration back into that space within our body to restore it to what it should vibrate to. So the frequencies work on a specific purpose. So it's not a frequency per body part or a frequency per illness or a frequency per chakra. It's a frequency per purpose. So the first frequency, and most people will recognize the solfeggio tones more in when we hear from the sound of music, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So when they sing those tones, or when they sing that do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, they're actually singing the solfeggio tones. So these tones, you can listen to them on their own. It's as boring as fuck, to be honest. Like, it's just and like, good luck. It's just not fun. But you can also Google the solfeggio tones, and each one of them, which I'm going to give you what they are in a second, and there are like hours and hours and hours of YouTube videos where it's got people who have composed music around it, like what Jem's done. And so Matt and I and Alaska, the boys have kind of grown out of it now, but I hope they come back to it. But Matt and I in Alaska, we listen every night to a solfeggio tone in the background, just as the base of whatever we're listening to. So the first one is 396. And that is the frequency to be able to release guilt and fear. So if we're going to bed and we're feeling that we've got a bit of guilt and a bit of fear going on, then that's the one that we press play to, and we can sleep, and your subconscious mind will take care of the rest. And essentially what it's kind of doing is whatever's vibrating inside your body of guilt and fear, it meets the guilt and fear and balances out and harmonizes it. So when you wake up in the morning, energetically, you over a period of time, if you can't just listen to it for 5 minutes and it's done, you have to listen to it. That's why we do it when we're sleeping for a very long period of time. It eventually will harmonize it, and you'll start to release that guilt and fear. It'll help bring it to the conscious mind once again, which is what spirituality is. Spiritual bypassing is when we know what to do and we do it, and we don't let it come into our conscious mind because we don't want to, or we think we don't need to. So we definitely never want a spiritual bypass. So the guilt and fear will come to the surface, to our conscious mind, for us to be able to release consciously. The next one is 417, and that is to facilitate change. So whenever you are experiencing change or want change, then 417 is your tone. Now, one thing that I will say for these two is that you can get a little bit reckless with the tones. You have to be really careful, because if you don't know what you're listening to, then you can bring some stuff to the conscious mind that you might not want to deal with each morning when you wake up. So 528 is transformation, miracles, and DNA repair. So 528 is one to put on if you're not feeling well. It's also one for hope and prayer. So it's kind of a if like for me, 528 is what I'm doing right now. But it's also if someone's not well and you're holding fear and worry and concern for people, 528 is a really great one for you to be able to harmonize out that fear and that worry, so that then you're able to show up in a much more useful, productive, proactive way, rather than just the warrior. There's 639, which is relationships and connecting. So some people might think that this is the communication one, but it's not. It's actually more to be able to energetically vibe with people. So it's a really great one for people who are wanting to find love, or wanting to deepen their love, or their or just repair their heart even. So anyone looking for love, 639 is your groove. 741, that is for solutions and expression. So this is the communication one. So when we listen to that, it's bringing that, again, that subconscious inability to, that subconscious's choice to hold whatever it is that you've got to say back because of some sort of fear or judgment. So 741 brings that to the surface to be able to help you find ways to creatively express yourself, or to have the courage to express yourself. 852 is return to spiritual order. So 852 is the one that we use for the upper chakra, for our crown chakra and our third eye chakra. So it's a very high vibrational, helping us to get back into our spiritual practice as well. So for those of us who, or those of you who sometimes will have a great meditation practice, cleansing, grounding, protection, and feel amazing, and you're very disciplined and diligent with it, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, I go on holidays and then I've forgotten to do it, and I start to feel like lower again. You can listen to 852 to bring yourself back up, and just to tap into that part of you that will remind you how good it can feel to go back to that. Hello, beautiful. It's gone. So ultimately, you can also do almost like when you do chakra meditations and things like that, there are ones that focus on individual chakras, and there's ones that focus on doing a whole chakra cleanse just in one go. You can do this with the solfeggio tones as well. You can focus on one, you can combine some, you can also do a whole frequency kind of overhaul. So these tracks, I recommend listening to them for a very long period of time. So you could have it in the background if you're allowed to have music at work. You could have it in the background, just subtly, just sitting there, coming out of a speaker on your desk. If you're allowed to have music as a teacher in the classroom, it is an amazing tool for teachers to help harmonise the room. One thing I do just for the out of the home kind of practice and implementation, I do kind of sometimes have a bit of a moral dilemma with that, because it will affect the people that are listening to it. And so if they're not consciously choosing to bring up guilt and fear, then you're kind of doing it to them without their acknowledgement or their agreement. So I do ask people to keep it in mind, and you know, if you've got an open mind space that of people that you work with, then suggest it to them, and maybe you could each pick one for the day. If you've got an open mind school or student structure, then maybe you could speak it to them as well. If, you know, at my boys' school, they're in high school, and at their school they have an entire class once a fortnight called wellness, and it's just dedicated to wellness, and there's no specific structure in terms of learning. It is just whatever comes up. So they do a lot of meditation in that. So if you have an opportunity to be able to introduce something like that in work or in school or in any other space, the solfeggio tones is something that could be implemented there. At home with my boys, not so much now, but when they were younger, when they'd fall asleep, I would put my phone or device inside the door, and I would put a solfeggio tone on, so that subconsciously and subliminally in their sleep, they would be receiving whatever it was that they needed. And so for Luca, it was usually always the 528, which was the DNA and the miracle repair and things like that when he was going through his stuff. And then at night time, Matt and I will intuitively select what we need together, and ultimately we will always usually go with the 639, which is the relationships and the connection one, and that's just to help maintain our relationship with the standard that we want it at. Sometimes we'll do the 852. It just depends on how we're feeling, because usually both of us, we're both givers and servers, so usually both of us, when it comes to night time, we're ready to check out because we've done so much connection through the day that we really don't want to connect during night. So my way to one up yourself is more so for tonight, to be able to choose one that you want for tonight. But during the day, if you can find a quiet space to, at least for half an hour, be able to listen to a solfeggio tone, and just Google it. And they've also got really awesome kind of visuals that they have with the videos that they play as well. So if you're feeling like you can't close your eyes and sit with the solfeggio tone, you can also watch the visual and be completely whacked out and spaced out, because they're all psychedelic. But Jem, the girl that I was talking about at the beginning, she also has some music on Apple at the moment. So you can Google Jem. I think she's Jem RPM or DJ Jem. I don't know which one she's going by for her album, but Jem RPM, and they're called Sonic Tonics. And they're really cool music, and so they've been picked up by heaps of other artists, and they're remixing at the moment, which is very, very cool. So be aware that sometimes your favorite music may also, or your favorite band or your favorite singer may also be using a subliminal solfeggio tone, and that's why you tend to just always like that person's music as well, because it speaks to you in a subliminal, intuitive way. And people sometimes can be a little bit fascinated by that when they look into it. So to one up yourself tonight, I want you to be able to find a solfeggio tone to listen to through the night if you can, or whatever your sleep patterns are, just for your sleep period, and just sort of keep a record of how you feel, and maybe just play around with those over the next few days, or the next 22 days, or 19 days. And then today, if you can just find about 30 minutes, no less than 30 minutes, but you could do more if you wanted to be able to have a listen and just see how you go.